San gradually took control over the water elements. He froze the water by using his burning bloodline again. Anyhow, the story took a strange turn again, when the Emperor once again blocked all his moves. This time, he not only blocked him, but his size enlarged to such a great degree that San couldn't hold himself against him. He was assured of his death. He knew he was going to die in the next few moments. All the happy moments of his life passed through his eyes. He had no hope left. While he was drowning with hopelessness, the Emperor suddenly began shrinking again. San was so confused to see the sudden regression. He had no idea what was going on. A while later, he got to know that a whole minute had passed by, and he had won the challenge. The great demon emperor congratulated him on winning the test. San was so relieved that he had finally made it through. His surroundings got back to normal. All the crystals had been dissolved. Within the blink of an eye, he had reached the peak of the mountain. The mighty crystal palace was in front of him. He had never imagined himself reaching that level. It all seemed like a dream. He was happy that he had achieved victory, but was worried about the powers he had revealed to the emperor. It appeared as if visiting the Crystal Palace was a huge mistake on his end. He wasn't expecting his true identity to be revealed to the Emperor. The great demon emperor of the Crystal Palace was definitely a powerful monster. San had no idea how he was going to be treated inside the palace after his secrets were revealed. All he could do at that moment was to use his spiritual sense and stay calm. Now that he had reached the top, he couldn't go back without entering the palace. His heart was pounding while he stepped inside, but he had to take that step no matter what. He felt an intense force of oppression coming from somewhere inside the palace. However, he endured it and kept on moving further. Going a few steps further, he paused as he saw someone coming out from one of the rooms. The man was so huge and sturdy, it could be nobody else but the great demon emperor. San was having a hard time identifying him because he had just met his replica. The real emperor appeared even more powerful and influential as compared to the replica. He had a unique charm and greatness. San dropped down on his knees in his respect and greeted him. The emperor didn't seem to be angry by his appearance. He was pretty calm and easy. He appreciated San's talent and questioned him on how he learned the skills because his bloodlines were so pure that they didn't seem to be copied. They mimicked the original powers. San replied that he wasn't sure of the process of gaining perfection in his skills. It could probably be because of his special ability to store bloodline powers after encountering them. However, his stored bloodlines were far lower in standard than those of the replica of the emperor. He didn't consider himself anywhere near in status to the great emperor. The emperor expressed his amazement that though he was omnipotent, he couldn't directly peep into his bloodlines. All he could visualize was the attacks being carried out directly by his spiritual power. He had not seen such a human who could execute all the skills with spiritual power instead of true bloodline power. Besides all the good things, he pointed out some weaknesses in his combat abilities too. His current strength required to be honed, and the abilities of his bloodlines were also covetable by others. As tokens of appreciation, he gave San 2 gifts. Along with the gifts, he advised him to visit the Crystal Palace when he reached the divine breakthrough level. He promised to protect him during the breakthrough. San was relieved as he received 2 gifts. He was assured that everything would be fine. The Emperor had not shown any sign of anger yet, which meant that he didn't have any issue with San's powers. There was a greater probability that he wouldn't have noticed his powers coming from the pre-incarnated life. Everything was going fine when, all of a sudden, the Emperor asked San about the skill he had used to control the water element. San got all numb as he honestly couldn't answer that question. He couldn't tell him that it was because of him being an ocean lord. He quickly made up an answer that it was a birth gift. He could control water elements since birth. Though his justification didn't make any sense, the Emperor trusted him. He couldn't spot any fakeness in his reply. When he cleared all his queries about San's talent, he brought the 2 tokens and presented them to him. The first one was the crystal mirror. It had 9 sides in total and represented the dignity and greatness of the Crystal Palace. It had the unique specialty of being able to replicate one's bloodline. However, that ability could only be used once. Hence, he advised San to use it with caution. Coming to the next token was a huge egg, which the Emperor had cultivated himself. He referred to it as San's second test, which he handed over to him. It was a test in the sense that when it hatched, its guardianship would be San's responsibility. He would be held responsible for any harm to it. The Emperor warned him to protect it well up till the divine rank. Unless he reached that rank, he was obliged to give the hatched organism whatever it demanded. If he failed the test, then death would be his fate. San was utterly confused. He couldn't understand the reason behind being assigned such a task, but he didn't find it reasonable to argue at that moment. Thus, he simply agreed with the Emperor and promised to try his best. With that, he was granted the permission to leave the palace. Without spending a single extra moment at the peak, San rushed down towards the base of the mountain. Reaching the base, he sighed in relief. He had closely escaped that death that day. Anyhow, at least he received 2 tokens. It wasn't a child's play to obtain the tokens from the Crystal Palace. He now had enough tokens to keep him safe at the Grand Coliseum. Since he could easily fight the battle, he decided not to visit any more palaces and waste time reaching the peaks. That time could be invested in the cultivation and polishing of skills. Being occupied with all kinds of thoughts, he didn't even realize when he reached the exit gate of the mountain. Guli was already waiting there for him. He was excited to report his progress to San. He had successfully fought 2 battles that day but lost his stamina at the 3rd level. San was happy with his friend's accomplishment. He told him that the 3rd battle onwards contained 3 replicas. Guli's reaction upon hearing about 3 replicas was so intense that San didn't bother telling him about the 9 replicas. He just told him that he had lost against the 3 replicas. As they ended their conversation, they got into the carriage and went to pick up the other group members. In the previous days, everyone used to be early and wait for San outside the palace. For the first time, they were done with their task early. Zooming out of the matters of the Shrek team, the camera rolled toward the inside of the Crystal Palace. The great demon emperor was having a discussion with one of his companions. The topic of the conversation was rather unexpected. They were talking about San's suitability for the Crystal Palace. Despite his skills being highly spectacular, he was a human after all. Humans could never be compatible with demons and monsters. However, the Emperor wasn't attracted by San's bloodline powers as much as he was attracted by his kind personality. The reason he passed the exam was his loyalty to his friend. He wasn't ready to abandon him. He risked his life for the sake of his dear friend. The loyalty depicts the strength of his character. A person's character was the foremost consideration for assessing his suitability for anything. Apart from character, he had some other striking qualities too. For example, he could use more than 3 bloodline powers at once. Adding all those points, San was a perfect fit for being selected as a member of the Crystal Palace. The Emperor was proud of his decision, and so was his companion. Coming back towards the Shrek team, they had reached their hotel just a few moments before night. It was a tiring day for all of them. Thus, they headed to their rooms without sharing any experiences with each other. San went to his room too, and sat on the bed peacefully. He took out the 2 tokens he had just received. For a while, he just gazed at the egg, and tried to figure out why he was given that token. Minutes later, he realized that it was a chance for him to excel in his dream. Maybe it could prove to be a step closer to his actual destination. After giving it a deep thought, he put both the gifts back in his safe lock and went to sleep. The next morning, all of them, except for San, headed towards their designated mountains. San stayed back at the hotel because he didn't require any more tokens. According to him, he had obtained everything he could from the palaces. After sending away everyone, he called his master Zhang to discuss future arrangements. Zhang asked him about his experience with the empires in the previous days, and he was shocked to hear that San had already obtained 3 tokens. It wasn't a regular thing to achieve such a high success in merely 3 days. It was hard for an ordinary man to get even a single token within such a short time. And that little kiddo got 3 of them. How astonishing it was. He wanted to talk more about it, but San was hesitant to reveal anything further. He changed the topic and asked Zhang about the matters of the headquarters. Zhang said that he was doing pretty well there. As he had broken through to the divine level, he was placed amongst the top fighters of the organization. His status earned him respect, and a position where no one could dare to mess up with him. Though he was enjoying his stay at the headquarters, he planned on going back to Carry City after getting done with the matters of the ancestral court. San also missed his home and wanted to return, but he couldn't leave the ancestral court soon. One of the chores to complete was the team battle of the Grand Coliseum, and the other one was to take part in the Lingxi clan's e-commerce. He wanted to taste some sweetness first, after which he intended to give them the Spirit Fusion Array. There was a huge play that he had planned in his mind. However, in executing his plan, he required some help from his teacher too, so Zhang decided to stay back for a few more days. They soon began the preparations for the play. San avoided going out on mountain hiking and spent more time in the hotel to teach Zhang the Spirit Fusion Array so that he could help him with the plan. The other Shrek team members continued with their hiking. In the tenure of a few days, none of them were able to reach the top, but they gained a lot from the experiences. Zicheng, on her journey toward the peak of the immortal Holy Mountain, was almost killed by the blazing flame. She managed to save her life after giving in a lot of effort, but her bloodline power was purified, and her skills were polished by the tragedy she was about to meet. Bingji had been spending more time at the endless Holy Mountain. Unfortunately, he couldn't reach the peak, but had made it to 3/4 up the mountain. He learned the ice element utilization perfectly. A couple of days passed by just like that. San had put a lot of effort into the Spirit Fusion Array. When he was confident of its success, he visited the Lingxi Chamber of Commerce with his master Zhang. The twist in the play was that Zhang disguised himself as Master Lu. As they entered the chamber, the vice president of the chamber's commerce branch, Shu Ziran, was standing there to welcome them. It appeared as if he was familiar with San and his team already. San introduced him to the fake Master Lu. They were all invited inside. Sitting in the lounge, sipping some tea, they decided upon the official commerce matters. Ziran said that he had been waiting for Master Lu for a long time to close the business deal. San had once told him about the fake master to gain his trust. In the end, he asked Zhang to become the fake master. Zhang was doing quite a good job with the acting. He depicted himself as an old, serious, and strict man. Without talking bluff, he came straight towards the main topic. Ziran respected him as a true rich old freak and promised to fulfill any requirements or desires he had in order to lock the array deal. Lu said that his demands were very simple. In exchange for trading their arrays, he wanted the chamber to become his sales channel. However, regarding delivery, he asked for his items to be delivered as per his time requirements. He would also set the price. He elected San as his liaison and said that they would be available for business dealings on weekends only. Though there was no deficiency in Zhang's acting as Lu, Ziran started doubting him due to his egoistic attitude. To clear his doubts, Lu handed him over the Hailsword Saint as a token. As soon as he saw the token, Ziran had no doubts left in his mind. He fully trusted him as his business partner. To further clarify his concerns, Zhang even demonstrated the creation of the Spirit Fusion Array disc. That was the reason San taught him the Spirit Fusion Array trick. He wanted to prepare him well for his role in the play. He, indeed, was a very clever kid. There was one more task to accomplish. Since they required money for their team, San told Lu to accidentally reveal during the conversation that he was studying the array of bloodline powers for which he needed money and materials. If Ziran was clever enough, he would pick the hint and arrange some money for them. However, Ziran became uncomfortable with the mention of money. Lu immediately understood his discomfort and completely revealed all the fake information about the bloodline array. He acted as if he had mastered the science. As per his limited knowledge about the actual topic, the bloodline power array disc allowed the user to immediately possess the power on the disc. Because Lu was still researching, he could produce low-level bloodline power array discs. He had practiced making a simple array earlier to convince Ziran. As proof, he quickly made an array of the Spirit Clan's bloodline power and handed it to San. He used it to summon the Blue-Silver Emperor. Witnessing the array with his eyes, Ziran sunk into some deep thoughts. He considered the array to be a good pick for their Deer clan, which wasn't good at fighting battles. The disc allowed its users to have different bloodline powers, which was exactly what their clan required. Lu was now at peace, and he had finally sparked an interest in Ziran's mind. He then came back to the main topic of monetary needs. His experimented product wasn't mature enough yet because the materials it required were high-end, expensive products, and high-grade blood. He then expressed his positive hopes that the Lingxi chamber would provide the materialistic requirements. He didn't want the money for charity. He wanted it against the proceeds from selling the array discs. As far as the blood was concerned, the experiment would proceed better with the help of the blood of the Heavenly Spirit Emperor, or the Great Demon Emperor. Ziran was convinced to help him, but he couldn't make the decision on his own. He said that he would convey the news to his master and leave the decision to him. The Blue-Silver Emperor's array disc was given to San because he had to participate in the Grand Coliseum. Ziran ended the meeting by saying that he would deal with San for the rest of the matters. Since Lu had nothing more to do in the meeting, he teleported himself back home. San and Zhang had successfully made a fool out of Ziran. Perhaps that was the play they had been planning on for the last few days. They faked the study program to obtain the most out of their business deal. After Zhang left, Ziran once again assured San that the Lingxi clan would make sure to support him in the battle. Though he had their support, the rules of the Grand Coliseum were quite different from those of Kerry City. It was more of a melee fighting there. Even the exact location of the battle was kept a secret. It took place in an area called the Hell Garden, which wasn't accessible to any ordinary person. Each time a battle takes place in that area, more than 50% of the people taking part in it are killed. As he slowly revealed the information about the competition, San was getting fretful. He didn't imagine it to be that difficult.